The Endless Tunnel. Late autumn 2002 in the serene town of Harrington, Maine. The amber hues of fallen leaves carpeted the town, and the whisper of the wind carried tales of bygone days. Emma Thompson, a 22-year-old journalist, was always intrigued by local legends and stories. She had grown up on her grandmother's tales of the town's history, of heroes and villains, of love and betrayal. On a chilled evening, while taking her routine walk through Harrington's old woods, Emma stumbled upon an overgrown pathway. Following her instincts and insatiable curiosity, she traced the path until she reached an old, forgotten railway tunnel. The entrance, covered in thick ivy and moss, beckoned with an eerie allure. The tunnel's mouth seemed to whisper secrets of the past, and its darkness seemed almost tangible, recalling an old legend her grandmother once shared about a mysterious tunnel and the ghosts that haunted it. Emma felt a shiver down her spine. She decided that this tunnel warranted exploration, not alone, but with her younger brother, Leo. He was 19, an avid photographer, and just as adventurous as Emma. She imagined the two of them uncovering the tunnel's secrets together, documenting its history, and perhaps even debunking or proving the legends associated with it. The next morning, armed with flashlights, cameras, and a thirst for discovery, Emma and Leo would venture into the heart of the forgotten tunnel. Little did they know the stories they had heard were only the tip of the iceberg. The morning sun peeked through the thick canopy of Harrington woods, casting a golden glow on the autumn leaves. The forest was silent, save for the distant chirping of birds and the crunching of leaves underfoot. Emma and Leo approached the entrance of the forgotten tunnel with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Emma, holding her flashlight tightly, looked at Leo. "You ready for this?" she asked with a half-smile. Leo, camera hanging around his neck, nodded. "Always ready for an adventure," he replied, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. As they stepped into the tunnel, the sunlight gradually dimmed, giving way to an encompassing darkness. They turned on their flashlights, revealing the damp stone walls of the tunnel, overgrown with moss and lichen. The air inside was cold and thick, carrying a musty scent that hinted at decades, if not centuries, of history. The siblings began to notice the peculiarities of the tunnel. The old railway tracks that once carried trains were now rusted and broken. Odd symbols and graffiti, possibly from previous explorers or vagabonds, adorned the walls. Some seemed recent, while others appeared ancient and faded. The deeper they ventured, the more the atmosphere changed. It became oppressive and heavy, as if the weight of the past was pressing down on them. They could no longer see the entrance, and the only sound was the echo of their footsteps and the distant dripping of water. Suddenly, Leo paused. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. Emma nodded. It wasn't just the drop in temperature. There was an intangible sense of being watched, of not being alone. Despite the uneasy, their determination pushed them forward, into the heart of the darkness and the unknown. As they delved deeper into the belly of the tunnel, a curious phenomenon began to manifest. Initially faint, almost indistinguishable from the quiet rustling of the wind outside, a soft, rhythmic sound reached their ears. Emma paused, signaling Leo to stop. They both strained to listen. It was humming, a gentle, melancholic melody that seemed to reverberate from the very walls of the tunnel itself. The tune was unfamiliar, yet it carried an ancient sorrow that tugged at their hearts. Leo, ever the rational one, tried to brush it off. "It's probably just an echo from somewhere outside," he murmured, trying to convince himself as much as his sister. But Emma wasn't so sure. The sound seemed too consistent, too deliberate. They followed the sound, their flashlights dancing across the walls and ground. The humming grew louder, clearer, as if guiding them deeper into the tunnel's embrace. It was no longer just a tune. It transformed into a mournful lullaby, sung by a voice that seemed to be lost in time. The siblings exchanged uneasy glances. The atmosphere grew denser, the weight of history and memories pressing in on them. Yet they were drawn to the sound, compelled to find its source. As they continued their descent, the lullaby began to weave a story. Though no words were sung, the melody spoke of love, loss, and longing. It told of a mother's love, a tragic end, and a sorrow that echoed through the ages. The once logical realm of the tunnel was now a realm of echoes and memories. Emma and Leo, entranced by the haunting lullaby, could only hope to uncover the mystery behind the voice that seemed to beckon them further into the abyss. The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly before them, its depth shrouded in an impenetrable darkness, but it was the lullaby, that haunting melody, that continued to pull them forward. Each note seemed to resonate with their very souls, a siren's call from the abyss. Suddenly, Leo's flashlight caught something in the distance. A faint silhouette, almost imperceptible, stood at the far end of the tunnel. It was the figure of a woman, her form ethereal and wavering, as if made of mist. She was cradling something in her arms, swaying gently to the rhythm of the lullaby. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The stories, the legends she had heard as a child, flashed before her eyes. She gripped Leo's arm, her fingers digging into his skin. "Do you see her?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Leo nodded, his face pale. "It can't be real," he murmured, trying to find a logical explanation. But the apparition before them defied logic. As they cautiously approached, the figure became more defined. They could make out the features of the woman, her eyes hollow with sorrow, her lips moving in sync with the lullaby. The object in her arms became clearer. A small bundle, perhaps a child. But just as they were mere feet away, the apparition began to fade. The lullaby grew fainter, the woman's form dissolving into the surrounding darkness. In mere moments, she was gone, leaving behind only the chilling memory of her presence. Emma and Leo stood in stunned silence, the weight of what they had witnessed pressing heavily upon them. The tunnel, once a place of curiosity, had revealed its haunting secret. In the wake of the apparition's disappearance, the tunnel felt even more oppressive. The air grew colder, the silence heavier. Emma, clutching her flashlight, looked around, trying to find some semblance of familiarity in their surroundings. It was then that she noticed something strange. Her watch, which had been working perfectly before their descent into the tunnel, now showed a time that made her heart race. Hours had inexplicably passed since they had first entered. Even though it felt like mere moments, the hands of the clock seemed to mock her, having jumped forward in a way that defied explanation. "Leo," she whispered, showing him the watch. His eyes widened in disbelief. Checking his own watch and the timestamp on his camera, he found the same eerie discrepancy. Time, it seemed, had played a cruel trick on them. Confusion clouded their minds. How had they lost so much time? Were the stories of the tunnel, with its twisted reality and timeless void, true? The legends spoke of wanderers who entered, only to emerge days, even years later, with no memory of the time that had passed. Panic began to set in. The weight of the missing hours bore down on them, filling their minds with dread. The tunnel's walls seemed to close in, the exit a distant memory. Desperate to find a way out and to understand the mystery of the lost time, they retraced their steps. But the tunnel, with its winding paths and eerie echoes, seemed different. Paths that should have been familiar appeared changed, distorted. The realization hit them hard. Not only had they lost time, but they were also lost in the labyrinthine depths of the forgotten tunnel. The atmosphere within the tunnel grew even more suffocating. The once comforting presence of each other became their only anchor in the sprawling maze. The beam of their flashlights, though bright, seemed to be swallowed by the thick darkness around them. Emma took the lead, with Leo following closely behind, his camera now hanging limply by his side. Every shadow, every echo intensified their anxiety. And then, without warning, a gust of cold wind blew through the tunnel, extinguishing their flashlights momentarily. "Leo!" Emma called out as she quickly turned her flashlight back on, but her voice was met with haunting silence. Frantically, she scanned the area around her. There was no sign of her brother. "Leo!" She cried out again, louder this time, her voice echoing eerily throughout the tunnel's expanse. Panic surged through her veins. The stories of the tunnel, its mysterious disappearances, the tales of souls lost to its depths, all flashed before her eyes. Desperate, she retraced her steps, her flashlight beam dancing erratically on the walls, searching for any sign of Leo. But all she found were the old railway tracks leading further into the abyss, and a camera. Leo's camera, lying abandoned on the ground. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of the situation bore down on her. The lullaby, which had faded into the background, now resonated louder, its mournful tune echoing the anguish in her heart. The tunnel, with its history of sorrow and mystery, had claimed another victim, and Emma, alone in its depths, was left to grapple with the haunting reality of her brother's sudden and inexplicable disappearance. Stifling her tears and clenching Leo's abandoned camera, Emma forced herself forward. Each step felt like wading through a nightmare, but she was determined to uncover the secrets of the tunnel and find her brother. As she wandered, her flashlight beam illuminated a small alcove in the tunnel wall. Nestled within was an old wooden chest, covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, Emma approached and slowly opened it. Inside, amongst various old trinkets, was a tattered newspaper clipping, dated September 17, 1912. The headline read, "Tragic accident at Harrington Railway Tunnel claims lives of mother and child." The article detailed a heartbreaking tale of a young mother and her infant, who, while seeking shelter in the tunnel, were struck by an unexpected train. As Emma read, a chilling realization washed over her: the lullaby. The apparition of the woman cradling a child. It all began to make sense. The spirits of the mother and child were trapped within the tunnel, their souls forever bound by their untimely demise. Beneath the newspaper clipping was a faded photograph of the woman, her eyes filled with the same sorrow Emma had seen in the apparition. Alongside it was a handwritten note: "May our souls find peace and be reunited in the afterlife." The weight of the tunnel's tragic history bore down on Emma. The grief of the mother, her eternal search for her child, and the eerie lullaby were all manifestations of a love that transcended death. But where did that leave Leo? Was he taken by the spirits? Or was there another force at play? With renewed determination, Emma decided she would not leave the tunnel until she uncovered the truth and found her brother. With the weight of her newfound knowledge pressing upon her, Emma's resolve intensified. The mournful lullaby, now a beacon of understanding, guided her steps. As she ventured deeper, a faint light began to permeate the inky blackness ahead. Hope surged through her. Perhaps it was an exit. As she approached, the light grew brighter, revealing an archway framed with ancient, overgrown vines. Beyond it lay the forest, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. Relief washed over Emma, but her heart still ached for her missing brother. As she stepped through the archway, the haunting lullaby faded, replaced by the familiar sounds of the forest. But something caught her eye: a single, old baby shoe, resting at the tunnel's entrance. Beside it lay a small note. With trembling hands, Emma picked it up. The note read, "To those who seek the truths of the past, tread lightly. Some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. But fear not, for lost souls will find their way." Tears filled Emma's eyes as she clutched the note. Was this a message from Leo, or a warning from the spirits of the tunnel? As she looked up, a distant figure caught her attention. Standing at the edge of the forest was Leo, looking dazed but unharmed. Emma rushed to him and the siblings embraced, the weight of their ordeal evident in their tight hold. The forgotten tunnel and its haunting secrets remained, a testament to the town's history and the souls bound within its depths. But for Emma and Leo, the experience was a chilling reminder that some mysteries, no matter how compelling, are best left untouched. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Write in the comments what you think about this story.